To WAYO 104.3 FM Rochester. Coming up on the show, we've got some I don't know, it's a smorgasbord episode. That's how you say that.
Everybody's favorite. That's how you
Smorgasbord.
say it.
Smorgasbord. Is that appropriation when I say it that way? It's
I
hard not
know.
to
I don't
say
think so. I
without.
think you're allowed to say it that way.
All right, it's hard not to say
Smorgasbord.
like a little bit of Swedish stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got some follow up on some things we've talked before. We've got a little science news. Heather's grumpy. I don't know what that's about, but I guess we'll
Oh
find out.
yeah. We're
Can't wait.
gonna.
That's coming up next on the Sound of Tomorrow. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because it's gonna be a time.
A time.
Yep. Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power, and you're listening to the Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester.
Yep.
Ross,
And it's over. Oh,
you
there's more.
know,
Okay.
no, I was going to say, you know how they have that joke? Popular people here in the world, have that joke about like, how do you know if someone's vegan? And the punchline is, don't worry, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought of probably for the past 3 weeks is, how do you know when a person is not sleeping well? The answer is they cannot stop talking about it.
Hmm.
For anyone out there who knows me in real life, I'm sorry because I'm talking about it again. It's terrible. I can't sleep.
Oh.
I don't know what happened.
I want to be
I
more.
went to England and I broke my sleep schedule.
I mean, I haven't slept for like 20 years, so I'm I want to be
Get
more
used to
sympathetic here,
it.
but I've learned not to I've learned to stop talking about it. And you will too in I'd say 15, 16 years
I
if this goes on.
can't. No, I I had terrible insomnia for years and years and years. I don't want to go back,
Yeah.
but now I'm back.
I'll just tell you. So what happens is if you follow the life course of my life, which you generally have done, you'll have insomnia bad for years and years and years, and then you won't. And you'll be like, oh good, it's over.
Yeah.
I've outgrown this. And you'll tell everybody how great it is. And you'll tell people, as I've done, people who had insomnia when they were younger, sure, it's a thing that happens when you're younger, but you
Yeah.
will grow
You'll
out of
grow
it.
out of it.
And then it comes back, and then you just
Yeah.
die that way. So
Well, so
that is
I guess that's
that
what's
is the
happened here.
that is the course I'm charting for your life.
The one bright side is I have so many hours in a day. I'm sure you have reached this point of sleeplessness where you become manic, right? Has that happened with you?
No, never.
Really? Oh, I think it was at one point last week. Wow, I did a super duper amount of cleaning
Oh,
because I was just insomnia fueled.
so are you like up in the night doing that?
No, it was just so I'll go to sleep and my body will allow me to sleep for 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, heaven.
And then my body says,
Lucky.
really honest and truly,
No, a couple 3 hours is good. I can do that
oh
usually.
God,
Usually.
I can't stand it.
But it depends. Sometimes I
Um,
can't. Sometimes it's later, like sometimes it's the beginning of the night, sometimes it's in the middle of the night. So, you
so
know.
that is the change I've had with the insomnia. When I was younger, I could not get to sleep to save my life.
Hmm.
Nowadays, I have a pretty good routine. I've got the book, I've got the cat.
Yeah.
I can fall asleep usually. Not all the time, but usually. But now I can't stay asleep. And so my body is like, you're up. And so then after trying to get back to sleep for as long as I deem appropriate, because at some point it becomes obvious that I'm not going to drift back off,
Hmm.
then I just get up and I just have so many hours in the day.
I mean, do you get the thing where like the thing that I get is I'll be like, well, got a good night's sleep. It's time to get up. Okay, I will get up now. I'm a little sleepy, but I guess it's time to get up. And it'll be like 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, God.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
all
I mean,
right.
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Like consistently when I was in England, I would be in bed falling asleep around 11 or midnight, appropriate for vacation. I would be consistently awake at 2 or 3 and just up
Which is like,
3 hours.
yeah, but I mean, it's also that's also like 8 o'clock here.
I
So I mean,
that I didn't really understand.
I mean, you were just sick and on an international voyage. So, I mean, maybe this is not permanent for the rest of your life.
I certainly hope not. Because another thing everybody who knows anything about me knows is how much I love to sleep.
Yeah.
And until several weeks ago, good I was at it.
You know what I just got was I ordered it, but I haven't gotten it yet because it was recommended to me by my personal trainer, which I have a personal trainer. You know how you know somebody has a personal trainer? They will tell
Because
you.
they'll tell you.
Um, the vegan thing made me laugh because I was just seeing, I had to sort of, I think I wound up muting the conversation because there was an, there's sort of, I have this weird sideline with like indigenous Twitter. I think like, I think because I'm down, usually I'm down with most
Okay.
people. So I sort of like, sometimes like, even if I'm not invited to the picnic, I'm sort of like, it's like, okay, you can listen in on this conversation or whatever.
Okay.
You
You're
seem
allowed to
cool.
be at the same park where the picnic is going on.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Um, and then there was a whole thing about like, there was some indigenous Twitter thing about vegans because vegans were like there were vegans that were complaining about and this was I want to say this was like first I don't even know like what this is like First Nations Canada sort of something, but like vegans were upset about indigenous practices related to blah blah blah. And I don't even think it was that. I honestly think it was kind of a dumb thing because it was like vegans were talking about like, oh, I don't think people should do this. And then indigenous people were like, oh, but we do that. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. And then it turned to this. I'm not saying all indigenous people, by the way. I'm saying like this couple of
Yeah.
indigenous
This
people
thread
that I
that
wound
you
up,
were seeing.
yeah, that I wound up having to mute. It was this whole like, all vegans are terrible and vegans hate indigenous people. Why do you hate indigenous people so much, vegans? Why don't you support us eating all the meat and killing all the thing? And it was like, it was just it was one of those stupid like Twitter things that I wound up having to mute. But that's all I think of when you talk about vegans complaining. Cause I'm like, cause I kept almost jumping in, being like, not all vegans are bad. Or like, just because someone is a vegan doesn't mean they are trying to tell you what to do. I
It's
get
true.
frustrated, like having been a vegetarian, I get frustrated with, and there are obnoxious vegans, there are obnoxious
Sure
vegetarians, there
there
are
are. Sure there
obnoxious meat
are.
eaters. There are really obnoxious meat eaters,
Really obnoxious meat eaters.
really obnoxious about it. And if you're a vegetarian, you will run into them, and
Oh, you
they will
will.
want to tell you about meat just as much as you complain about. But I like people tend to assume that because like you don't eat meat or what, this is such a sideline I've gone on. People tend
That's
to
all right.
assume that just because you don't eat meat, you're trying to tell them what to do or like.
Yes.
And when I say like I'm always they're always and people will be like, why don't you eat meat? And I'm like, well, I mean, for me, it's a little bit of a health thing, but it's also a, and I'm always sheepish about like it's kind of a moral thing, but it's just my moral thing. It's not, I'm not like judging it. It's fine. I'm just,
Yeah.
but as soon as you tell them you have like moral reasons for doing it, suddenly like you're judging them and it's terrible. People are very, anyway,
Well, there's
but I,
that. Or have you ever had the thing where you're out to dinner with someone and they look at you kind of like shyly as though they're afraid to ask and they say, is it okay if I order the chicken?
oh, I never get that. No,
I've had that happen a number of times.
what I get all the time is like people ostentatiously ordering meat and then pointing out, like I have a weird thing about people talking about what I'm eating, and I don't know why. I guess I'm a little, I don't mind eating in front of other people, but I'm a little self-conscious about eating in front of other people. Like, it doesn't bother me to do it, but I feel very aware of myself. I feel like aware of what I'm eating. I almost feel like people are looking at me. And I know that's not
Hmm.
true because people don't care. But so what I get is people ostentatiously being like, I'm going to get the chicken. It's so good, but you don't eat chicken. You're going to eat something else that's not chicken because you don't eat the chicken. That happens to me all the time.
Wow. Yeah, no,
All the time.
that's so interesting. And I can't help but think we probably covered this on the show. I can't help but think there's some gender component in there
Hmm.
because you get way more backlash than I ever have for being vegetarian.
Yeah, might
And
be.
I remember when we both worked at the same place, and I think I wasn't even pescatarian then. We would both bring vegetarian lunches, and people would be irate with you for not eating meat.
Well, it wasn't even
Like,
irate. It's just like they they had to say something about it. And it wouldn't necessarily be mean or rude. I mean, but it was sort of rude, and just making a big deal about what somebody's having for lunch is kind of rude, I think. But it wasn't necessarily like, you're eating meat, you stupid jerk, but it'd be like, oh, look, you got your vegetarian lunch again. Oh, look at you with your vegetarian lunch. It would be that kind of thing.
So what would happen with me is people would be like, oh, there's no chicken in that soup. I don't know what the thing is with chicken, but I'd be like, oh, no, I'm vegetarian. And at the time I was married, and more than once I had someone like gasp and say, like, well, does your husband eat meat? And I said, yes, he eats meat. And they'd be like, oh, well, that's okay then.
Phew.
And I really felt like the point they were trying to make is like, men need meat. Little woman, she doesn't need it. But as long
That's
as the
true.
men are getting enough meat,
You are a little woman.
I am a little woman.
So,
I'm sitting on a
eh,
very tall stool now.
so the point of all that is, from indigenous, from First Nations Canadians
Yeah.
to vegans to Ross's lunch. The point of that was I ordered this thing
Right.
called a snooze band. Um,
Ooh.
and it's a little expensive. It's called a snooze band, so I'm not recommending it because I don't have it yet because I just ordered it, and all I know about it at this moment is that it's expensive. So
I am,
do with
I'm
that
so
as you will.
desperate. I'm like, you just riff for a minute. I'm Googling it right now.
But it's a because I've tried to.
Does it go on
I
your
mean,
head like a headband?
yeah, it goes on your head like a headband. It's like soft and smushy, and it's a sort of an eye mask slash headphone thing. So, and the
Oh,
headphones supposedly are, because I've tried to do, because sometimes I'll be like, you know what, because I like, you know, even with podcasts and stuff, if I fall asleep during it, fine, I'll pick it up, I'll rewind and listen to it more. So I don't care like if I miss something usually, if it helps me go to sleep. So, I'll listen to a sleep story or a thing. But then whenever I try to do that, like I've got the stupid headphones in my ear and I'm worried about the headphones are going to fall out. They're going to get lost. Oh my God. Ow. I rolled over onto a headphone. It hurts.
yeah.
So apparently it's a smooshy thing that's like an eye mask cover, which is helpful sometimes I find. And then I guess the headphones in it are like these really thin, flexible things.
Oh,
And
like
my
little.
personal trainer recommends it
Yeah.
highly. So
I sure hope it works for you.
yeah, we'll find
I
out.
mean, that would be so nice. I say it works for you because I don't like a sleep mask.
I thought you liked a sleep mask.
Well, I like to cover my head, but not with a sleep mask. There,
Hmm.
it's too confining. The band,
But
I can't.
but but like a towel wrapped around your head is not?
Yeah, basically,
Huh.
yeah.
I think you should try to
just,
retrain yourself.
just draped,
I
just
think you
draped
should try
over
to
my head.
I think you should try to retrain yourself to wear a sleep mask.
Dude, oh, it pulls my hair.
I don't know what kind of sleep mask you're wearing.
Just a regular one from, I don't know, Bed Bath and Beyond.
Hmm. Well,
Just a normal one, nothing fancy,
all right.
but also nothing like wildly out of this world or anything. Just kind of a standard. You pick it up at Target.
Okay. Because those I will not wear because they hurt. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't know. Keep me posted on this sleep band.
Um,
Hopefully, we'll
you
get
know
back
what?
to
Since
that.
since we're all over the place, can I give you a little update?
Ooh, I want an update.
A little update on a previous thing that we've talked about in the past.
Oh boy, I
This is
love a
all.
little follow up.
Try to diagram this episode, everybody. Good
Yeah,
luck.
good
I dare
luck.
you. I will send anyone $5 who can create an outline of this
Maybe
episode.
this is us now. Last week we were all over the place as well.
I know.
Flaky as all get go.
I like it when we're organized, but I feel like sometimes,
I don't have the capacity today.
we love our good friend Dan Watt.
Yes, we love him very
Dan
much.
Dan Watt, you all will recall, you longtime listeners of the show, and by long time I mean you've been listening for like a month or two at minimum. Dan Watt is the director of Everybody Dance, which was
Awesome
a
documentary.
yeah, a documentary that we spoke about, and just a heck of a great person with a wide ranging background. Very interesting. We'll have to have him on the show again someday. But
I hope
he
so.
has been not. So we talked all about Everybody Dance on the show he was on. He has been nominated for a Cheetah Rivera Award, which the Cheetah Rivera Awards are to promote and recognize dance and choreographic excellence on Broadway, off Broadway, and in film. Named for, of course, the 90-year-old actress and singer and dancer, who's been in everything. She's a 10-time Tony Award nominee. She's a 3-time Tony Award winner. She's got a Lifetime Achievement Award. blah blah blah. She's got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I don't mean blah 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 minimizingly. I mean blah blah blah. Like the list goes on and
etc.
on. You could go on forever. But he is nominated for um actually of the three movies, I've seen two of them. So this is will this will be an interesting competition. But of course, so Everybody Dance was directed by him, and then a movie called Broadway Rising, which I've heard of but I've
Ooh.
not seen, directed by Amy Rice, and then Moon Age Daydream, directed by Brett Morgan,
Well, well, well. We
which
saw
I
that
also think is
together.
we did, and I also think is a pretty fabulous movie. And I think
It
I would say that
was.
Dan is in good company, at least as far as that goes. I haven't seen Broadway Rising, but
Yeah, definitely. And you and I, we saw Moon Age Daydream in a theater with the seats that you can lay down in.
correct, which is most
Yeah.
theaters. So
You know me, I'm going to weird places. I'm still sitting in like vintage seats and stuff.
where else are you going to the movies?
But the little, it's where I'm often
That's
at.
not a weird place. That's like the biggest movie theater in town.
It's a city. Yeah, probably it is, isn't it?
I'm only going to point out your tendency to make everything you do sound very kitschy and weird and interesting, when in fact you just go to like the number one movie theater in Rochester.
The closest one to me.
That's like if I was like was
No,
like,
I guess the
I only
cinema's
drink
closest to
artisanal
me.
beverages like Diet Coke. I would never.
Yeah, have you heard
I'm
about the new millennial trend? Or maybe it's Gen Z. They're taking Diet Coke breaks and they're filming them on TikTok.
no, that sounds. I don't. Maybe I don't want to sound old.
I feel so
But it sounds
old.
really boring and
Yeah,
terrible.
I there was a whole article about it somewhere, and I pulled it up. I thought about bringing it to the show because I was like, this is not it's not new. I don't think. And of course, it's all TikTokified, so it's like, come with me, while I take my Diet Coke break. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
you're going to okay, you're getting a
I am.
soda,
I am
huh?
very much in the middle age thing where like I hardly ever look at my TikTok, but I do see I get TikToks that have been like repurposed back on
Sure,
Instagram.
of
So
course.
like I get,
That's
I
how
feel
we
like
see
it's
many of them.
I feel like it's curated, for me. Like I don't have to pick through and figure out what the good TikToks are myself. I can just like look at I can rely on other middle-aged people to find me the TikToks that I will be amused by and
Yeah,
feed them back to me that way. It seems like a better use of my time, frankly.
I'll admit I get some pretty funny stuff. Of course, I can't remember what this comedian's name was, but right before we started recording, because as I mentioned, I'm crabby because I haven't been sleeping. Somewhere I think it was on Instagram. It was like a TikTok repurposed for Instagram, and it was Instagram was like, "You might enjoy this," and I did.
Okay.
The comedian is a lesbian woman who's married to a woman, and she was talking about how she got in a cab, and the cabbie was like, "Oh, what's your husband like?" And she was like, "Oh, my wife." And he wanted to know if it was hard not having a man in the house. And she wound this whole thing about like their house is filled with spiders, and she hasn't had a pickle since she came out because no one can open the jars. And it was good. It made me laugh.
You know what someone said to me at the gym the other day?
What they say.
Again, good luck diagramming this show, anybody. Anybody who's doing the outline for this, please.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Woo.
um, whatever that means. I don't know what that means when people say that, but it sounds nice, doesn't it?
It
Sounds like a
does.
nice thing.
I mean, except if you're down south, and then it doesn't mean, bless your heart.
Yeah, no, I don't mean it like that. And I don't even really mean bless your heart like that, but I don't really say bless your heart.
I'm gonna
But
start.
I don't like things that are, well, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna be like, if I'm gonna be snarky, I'm gonna be snarky, and if not, I'm gonna be nice. You know what I mean? Like a backhanded compliment, like bless your heart, is like, I don't know. That's not really my style. I'll just say it to you,
Yeah, that's true. I guess we probably would.
or
We're
or I
Northerners.
will very, or I will repress it in a way that I think it makes it not obvious, but people will know what I'm feeling. But like, it's not me trying to make a point. You know what I mean? It's me like trying to act like I'm being very polite when actually my feelings are clear. Um,
But anyhow, what did somebody say to you at the gym
asked about my bride.
about your bride?
This is the thing.
Your bride?
So there's all sorts of stuff. And Heather and I were just talking beforehand on the show, and I think made an agreement to keep things light and not talk about all of the, well, I'll just throw this out there. So we have talked about the anti-queer, anti-LGBTQ stuff that's going on, and it is like, and we have said this before too. If you have queer friends, they are not okay.
Yeah.
Wherever they live, it has gotten scary out there, and um I have, like, never in my life, for the most part, have I had acquaintances or good friends who have been, like, sort of overtly hated on. It's just I've been very lucky, like, with where I've lived and who I've known. Um, I haven't had a lot of that in my life, and, I mean, if you're queer, you always I say
Yeah.
not a lot. There's always some of it. It's always at a reasonable it's always it's always there's always that background noise, but um, nothing where there was never this constant drum beat that some people have always had depending on where they've lived and blah blah blah. But I've
Hmm.
never had that. And suddenly lately I'm having that. Like, people in my life are experiencing a lot of verbal assaults, some physical assaults, some things that have happened recently that have been really upsetting. I mean, I say to me, but really to not about me. It's about the people that it happened to.
I'm
Um,
so sorry.
really bad, like, like, not some a couple of stupid, annoying things, and then some things that are like make me feel like it is a matter of time before something like that happens to me. Just the way things seem to be going. So I say that all to say, um, I don't know where I was going with this. I got sidetracked again. What was I talking about?
You were talking about somebody asking about your bride at the
Oh
gym.
yeah, my bride. So where I was going with that, let me start this over, and then I'll cut out all that middle part I just did. Okay. So one of the things about being queer that's sort of like, it's not hateful and it's not horrible, but it's really annoying, is you feel like you're coming out all the time.
Sure, because everybody
And
just assumes that you're
yeah,
in a hetero relationship.
and you
If there's
never
a sign that
know.
you're in a relationship.
Right. And you never know how the person's going to react.
Right. Because
And
it
and
could
I
be a
was
matter of safety.
it could be a matter of safety. I mean, like I said, I am only recently feeling like that is an issue. I mean, of course, that's never not been an issue, don't get me wrong, but I am only recently feeling like I have that feeling myself. But then there's another level of just, okay, is this person going to be annoyed? Are they going to be awkward? Is it going to be a whole thing? Because sometimes it's just a whole thing, or sometimes the
Oh,
person, like,
yeah.
has to go into a big thing to, like, let you know that it's okay, which is fine. I
Of
get
course,
it. It's
because they once
nice.
worked with someone who was gay and married to a man. And so, they have no
Right.
problem with it. So you don't need to worry about them having a problem with it. It's like, oh my God.
But nine times out of 10, I didn't even want to be in a conversation to begin with. So,
Right.
like, and now I have to, like, comfort this person about, yeah, I have to
Oh,
reassure this person that they're okay.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, but yeah. So the guy at the gym was fine. The guy at the gym was fine when I corrected and said, politely, I was like, my husband.
But
Um,
like, how did this? I want to know
I
how
think
this
he saw
happened
my
because
ring.
bride is a very specific.
I think he saw my ring. It was a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't talk to a lot of people at the gym. Again, this is my
No,
my local suburban gym. This is not.
I
Eh.
never liked talking to people at the gym. I didn't want to interact ever.
Yeah.
I wanted to go and do my gym activities.
Yeah.
Unless it was a
So,
class, like an interactive class or something, then I'd
right,
love
which is
to see
why I
those
absolutely
papers.
do not do those interactive classes.
Oh, I like them.
I know. That's because you like interacting with people. I do not. But so they I guess he saw my ring and was like, and I forget what, he was making small talk about something, and it was something like, what does your bride think about that? Or whatever. It was just, I mean, again, he was fine. I corrected my husband. It was fine. Didn't make a big deal. Didn't do any of the really annoying things
That's nice.
except use the word bride,
Bride is so strange
which is such a weird, yeah.
because I would never refer to Mike as your groom,
No,
you know, or your
no.
bridegroom or whatever. Like
Is that, like, diminishing, you think? Is that a,
it, I
oh,
mean, bride does have the conno or yeah, the connotation of being like someone young and like naive or something. I, it's a very strange choice to me,
Yeah.
especially I think it is a little condescending. Maybe I mean, but maybe it was nice. Maybe he thinks that you're like 19 because it almost
Right.
sounds like something you would say to a 19-year-old, like, well, what does your bride think about that?
And I do get, and we're I think we're probably both at a weird, I guess every age is a weird age depending on where you're coming from, but like I definitely feel sometimes where like I mean, it's literally middle age, right?
Yeah,
To people in their 20s or younger, I'm very, very extremely old.
I'm ancient,
To people like 60s and 70s, I'm very, very young.
which is so weird to me because the gap isn't that big.
Right.
But you're right. It will be people in their like 60s who insist that I'm a kid. It's like, I'm not.
Yeah. And
I'm definitely not a kid.
I've gotten that like in work contexts, like, oh, when you grow up, I'm like, I am I'm kind of old.
Yeah.
Like like
Yep.
people my age retire. I mean, they're retired really young, don't get me wrong, but like
But nevertheless, they some do. It is
yeah.
early retirement, yet it is an adult retiring from a career.
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, so that's a bizarre. And honestly, as annoying as that has been in a couple contexts where like I said, when I've gotten it in work context, it's been sort of like, "Oh, when you're further along in your career," I'm like,
I've
"Okay,
been
I've
here
been
for 20 years. I
right,
don't know
right,
what to don't know what
right."
to tell you.
Um as much as that's annoying, it's also sort of like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I guess I could still pass for young to someone.
Yeah,
That's
I mean
nice.
it's all right. It is most definitely weird. I was just talking about this about some people I've had opportunity to interact with who really they're positive I'm super young. It's like, no, I'm probably maybe 20 years younger than you, which not young.
Yeah. Which is that what you told is that what you explained to them? No, listen, I'm
Um
20 years younger than you, which is still way not young. That's how old
no,
you are.
that I kind of try to just let it go and I'm like,
Yeah, probably
I
best.
all right, it's fine. They think we're kids. That's I guess we're kids then. That's fine.
Yeah.
So because I am sleepy, Ross, I'm irritable. I'm not because I'm talking with you now. But I wanted to talk about a thing or ask your advice or opinion perhaps
Oh boy.
on a thing that I saw today that does I think hopefully it doesn't touch on any of the heavier issues too much that we were going to try to tap dance around today.
Because
Um
you see how quickly I'll hijack the conversation.
no, just it this is I think relevant to the SOT and I think we probably don't necessarily want to get too heavy, but it might go there.
All right.
I think everybody's always used to anyway.
We'll see what happens.
So I was on social media, as I often am,
Sure.
and I saw a post that caught my eye. And it was a post from someone I've met in real life.
Okay.
So, and I'm not going to name this person's name. I don't think they're listening. Um, but the first thing I saw was the infographic that they posted, and it's something about non binary and gender identities. And it runs through a quick outline of sex versus gender, identities that fall under non binary, why pronouns matter, binary versus non binary, transgender versus cisgender, and pronouns,
All right.
which seemed to me a pretty handy, by no means comprehensive, but like a nice thing to put out there.
Sure.
Like if you're looking for some shorthand, here's what this means, here's what this means. You don't even have to worry about it. Check it out.
Yeah.
And what the person posted along with this was, and I'm not going to read this verbatim. I'm going to encapsulate the sentiment though. I am so liberal. Like I'm so liberal. Like I'm really liberal. And I have a lot of gay friends, like tons of gay friends, and I've been in groups. I worked with gay people too. My ex brother in law, gay, very gay, like so super gay. I have been to drag shows. I've been to drag shows. I've seen it all, but I can't keep this straight. Oh, wait. Did I use the word straight wrong? I care so much about not offending anyone. I never want to offend anyone. That's super duper important to me. But this is just too complicated. I just, I can't wrap my mind around it.
Um,
So, what I'm wondering is like, what is the point of posting stuff like this? And then other people are chiming in. They're like, oh, I know I don't want to offend anyone and I want to respect everyone, but it's just so complicated. How would I possibly understand?
yeah, you know what? My tolerance for anything like that is, I mean, to say, it's one thing to say, it's one thing to say, oh, this is complicated or this is new to me, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
I heard,
And it's easy, it's also totally fair to be like, oh, sometimes I screw up, but I'm really trying to learn.
yeah, I mean, I heard somebody on a podcast like one week where it was a podcast about a TV show, right? And they were talking about there was going to be a non-binary character on the TV show. And the person who was talking didn't know what that meant. And this was fairly recent, so I was a little like, I don't know if I want to listen to this podcast anymore because that's being a little bit of a red flag for me that you have no idea what a non it's 2023 and you have no idea what a non-binary.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like didn't say anything nastier in it, so I was like, So I listened to the next one and the person had clearly figured out what a non-binary person was and was using the correct pronouns and blah blah blah, and it was not that hard. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
that's the thing, because this sheet, as I described it, it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple high level breakdown of things that might confuse you, like, oh, non binary, also called gender variant and gender nonconforming. This describes people who identify between or outside of the gender binary. Is that really that much to wrap one's head around?
well, and if it is, it is. I mean, it's just, you know, the problem is you're using it like a weapon. Like, I don't want to offend anybody, but you've asked too much of me. You're asking me to do too much, is basically what
Yeah,
the person is saying. Like, oh, I care about people, but not enough to read this thing without complaining.
yeah,
Again, even, I mean, they're, and what it always comes down to is people know themselves better than you. And, you know, you're not necessarily, it's good to have a sense of people's identities. You're probably going to meet specific people in your life with specific, you know, they might have pronouns you're not used to using, or they might have specific, they might have a, they might be somewhere on the, they might be non-binary in a way that you're not used to. If you want to learn about, I mean, you're never going to learn everybody's identity because everybody's different.
yeah.
If you want to learn about everybody's the big categories, great. If not, no one's really asking you to do that. They're sort of asking you to respect the people that you're encountering in your life. So if you meet a person and they use pronouns that you're not used to using, learn those pronouns. Great, you're done. You're a hero. Good job.
Well,
But to
and
complain generically that you might have to do that someday
yeah, it
because you saw a thing
really like
online and pretend like you're some kind of ally, no, I'm sorry.
that
You're out of the
it got
club.
under my
You are not
skin.
an ally.
I am so I'm so glad because that was like I said, I was made cranky by seeing this. And I was like, what is your point? Like, what are you? And that is it. I think the person posted this was like, look at me. I'm so great. I'm an ally. But just said very clearly, like, yeah, but I'm not going to pay attention to any of this. I'm not going to try to learn.
Yeah.
And this, because I have met this person in person, they are a person who's capable of learning.
Yeah.
So it's a willful decision. And it just, I was so irritated. And I feel like this this washing your hands of like, well, it's not my issue. I don't need to care. It's like, well,
Yeah.
then maybe, I don't know, maybe shut up about it.
Well, that's it. Maybe you shut up about it. You know, I was talking I felt a little bad as I was talking about like the indigenous issue that I was talking about earlier, right? Because I was like, oh, I don't even remember what like tribal group this person is part of or what they or what what, and I wasn't even 100% sure what like where they're from. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
was,
like
and
which
so like look at like First Nations indigenous issues. Like I don't know every tribe. I don't, questions come up on Jeopardy like, oh, group in Arizona, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't know what tribe that is, and I feel like a jerk. Like I should know that, right? But I what I do not do is go on Twitter and be like, there are too many tribes. I
yeah,
can't learn all the tribes. I love all the Native American, Indigenous, Indian people, but I can't learn your tribes. It is too complicated. Why do you have so many? Bleh.
yeah.
You know why I
You're
don't do
right.
that?
You're
Because I
right.
would sound like a jerk,
You would sound
which is
like
the
this
nicest
person
word I can
here.
use on the radio
Yeah.
to describe how I would feel if I did that.
Yeah, because that is most definitely exactly what this person was doing here. And it bugged the heck out of me.
There are so many states. I can't believe people come from so many states and I'm supposed to learn all these states. It is too complicated. Just everybody be from one state.
It's
It's like, shut up. Great, you don't know things. And again, to say this is complicated, this is new to me. Okay,
sure.
that's fair. Totally fair.
There's so many things that are complicated and new to me.
Yeah,
I just thought of a kind of funny thing, but I do need to work on this because before I left for England, I was listening to the news and they had a thing about not using the term sir and ma'am anymore
mm,
because those are very gendered. And I was really interested in the discussion and everything on the radio, but I kind of had to go to work. So I couldn't be paying attention to the radio and actually doing my job. And
sure.
once I got to England, I realized I wish I'd heard the rest of that because I needed to ask where the bathroom was in the National Art Gallery. And there was a worker there who appeared to me, by any indications I had with my eyes, maybe if we still use sir and ma'am, I would have used sir for this person.
Yeah.
But I had in mind the the story I'd heard on the news. So unfortunately, what came out of my mouth was, "Excuse me, friend."
It it
Girl,
is. And I mean,
why did I say friend like that?
well, and that's a legitimate complication because our language is so gendered.
Oh, it
And
certainly is.
and
But
English
there's
is not even the most gendered language, but our language is so
oh right,
gendered that sometimes there aren't good replacements for things. And we should have words. We should have a word like where I can walk up to someone and not be like, "Excuse me, might I inquire as to your gender so I can address you?" You know?
right, and like hey you isn't polite,
Right.
and I think that's why I went with friend. But
Friends
I
sort of
feel
cute.
like I feel like all I need to do, and I think friend is fine, especially if you don't say friend.
Right.
Like I don't know why that came out of my mouth that way.
Hmm.
It did. I didn't mean to be amusing.
Hmm.
After it came out like that, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I feel like this is just something that I've remembered because of this discussion. Like, oh yeah, you meant to Google that.
Yeah.
There's got to be a list. I'm I'm not unhappy with friends. But I feel like there's probably some list I can look at and find things that will seem normal for me to
Yeah.
say.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, I do. But see, approach, I wouldn't necessarily approach like somebody who's working somewhere,
Yeah.
like someone who back in the day I used to use like a more formal honorific
Right.
because buddy or pal, that's too casual. I might say that to like, I don't know if I were somewhere where a child was around and a child threw its ball at me or something. I don't know how to interact with children.
Yeah.
I might return the ball saying like, here you go, buddy. But so I need to figure out my formal honorifics.
Yeah. And again, I think that's not you. And that's an area where it's legitimately complicated because, um, you know, I the number of people that identify as non-binary is growing, but it's still relatively low, and I think part of that is I don't think we know how many people are I mean, I think I'm
Well,
one of those
and
people who's kind of like I think everybody's a little non-binary in the sense of like I don't think our how you identify is one thing, but I don't think our sense of I think gender I don't just think this. I mean, I know this. I mean, gender is a lot more complicated than we think it is, and I think everybody's I don't think many people are 100% all the way on those sliders like they think we are. I think a lot of that socialization. But
oh yeah,
that being said, it is a legitimate complication because, odds are the person that I see presenting as a male is probably going to be fine if I call them sir. Odds are the person I see presenting as a woman is probably going to be fine if I say, excuse me, miss or madam or my lady.
see, it gets complicated with women though. I don't like Miss. I'm not a girl. I'm middle aged, as we've discussed.
Oh, see, and I grew up with like miss was like an honorific for older people. So that's interesting. Like
Yeah, but I
like
also
Miss
don't love
Barbara
ma'am.
Stanwyck. Like Miss was always like an honorific for like an honored older woman.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's it gets a little more complex there than just sir. Um, but then I'm also thinking Nicole Byers said that every time she's on a plane, because she doesn't wear a wig or do her makeup or anything, she just puts on a little cap and she's got her glasses on. She
Mhm.
said consistently, flight attendants will come up and say, like, "Can I get you a drink, sir?" And
Yeah.
then she speaks with her higher pitched voice, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am."
Yeah. Well,
And
and
it
that's
doesn't
it.
offend her. It's just something that, like, it's happened so many times to her that she's mentioned it, but she's never like, "Oh, and then I get so upset."
It's like we're seeing with a lot of the anti-trans stuff too, like the efforts to define what makes a woman. You're seeing so many like there's been a lot of anti-trans hate against cisgender women who
Yeah.
are not conventionally pretty lady girls. You know what I mean? Who do not who or who do. In some cases it's just like um Daniel Radcliffe's girlfriend was getting all sorts of hate because he had sort of come out he wasn't like stridently I don't know if he brought up J.K. Rowling's name, but he was doing some like, look, I'm pro trans. Here's some I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that on that group. And again, wasn't even like I don't think he was even doing a blah blah blah, she's bad, but just a hey, I'm over here. I'm on this side of this.
Mm-hmm.
So his girlfriend's kind of tall,
Oh,
and he's not that tall.
he's not that
Or I
tall.
mean, he's probably like my height, but he's not super tall. So his girlfriend's taller than him. So they were both getting all sorts of anti-trans hate because his very like conventionally beautiful girlfriend, who by any conventional standard is pretty. I mean, depending
Uh-huh.
on what your taste is, but I mean, if you saw her, you'd be like, "Oh, that is a pretty woman." um, is getting all sorts of anti-trans hate because people decided that she must be trans because he likes trans people and his girlfriend's tall. So I mean, like the standards of what which is where you're starting to see people getting like, cisgender women
Mm-hmm.
getting assaulted in bathrooms because
I remember bringing that up years ago. I was talking with a Trump supporter in my life, and they were saying that the policing of who can use the bathroom was a good idea, and that was important. And I mentioned some people that we know, this Trump supporter and I, who maybe don't, they're not teeny tiny, delicate little ladies, and they don't wear, frilly dresses and all this stuff.
yeah.
And I was like, they should be able to go to the bathroom. And if if you start policing bathrooms, I think that these people aren't going to be able to go and use the restroom. Which is that what you want?
Yeah. And it's so especially lately it's become so charged. People have made it so charged
Mm-hmm.
that it's not it's not like it's not the stereotypical big burly trucker lesbian, necessarily who comes in the overalls and you know what I mean? That stereotypical image you have of like the lady that you might mistake as male presenting.
Hmm.
Um, it's just all sorts of people who are just not, again, just kind of being tall.
Yeah.
I mean, people are sort of because trans people have become the boogeyman. So the boogeyman, of course, only is the boogeyman or boogie person, I guess. So the boogie person, I don't want to I don't want to misgender the boogeyman. Um the boogie person is only the boogie person if the boogie person is hiding in every closet, is under any
Uh,
bed. So people are seeing trans people who are the new villain everywhere. And again, I think you know, some of these cisgender women who have been on this train are going to get caught up in this too. It's not going to be, I don't know. I don't think this is, well, it's not going well now. And I certainly
mm-mm,
don't think it's going to go well carrying forward for anybody.
no, no. To take a big flex there, I have a fun light thing from Slate um, about important debates that are now resolved because wedding season's coming up.
Okay,
You and your bride would know about this.
sure.
So I don't know. I don't go to as many weddings as I used to because I'm at that age. But
Where I say no to things a lot.
well, this is a quick list of like all kinds of wedding things that shouldn't be done anymore. Are
Okay,
you ready?
sure.
We're going to go kind of quick through these. No more engagement parties. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, I don't know. I think an engagement part. I mean, I guess like if you're talking about I don't know
A
what goes
big,
into an
I believe that this is talking about a big formal one where everybody brings you more gifts.
yeah. No, I mean that's not necessary, but I'm all for a party.
Oh, I'm all for a
So like
party. Just like get together, have dinner, have dancing, do whatever you want.
yeah,
But
so I'm
yeah,
fine
this
with
is like a formal thing.
right. So I'm fine with getting rid of that then, sure.
No outdoor summer weddings. Yes, please. Have you been to a summer wedding outdoors?
Um yeah. Why is that bad?
Oh, it gets so hot. And invariably things take too long. And then the sun is just like beating down on you. No
Okay.
one ever provides sunblock. If you have any kind of sensitivity to heat whatsoever, like you're sweating through your wedding outfit, like it's gross.
Okay.
It's bad.
Sure. We can get rid of that. Why not?
This one I thought was
Gone.
interesting. Your closest friends should control your guest list, not you.
Huh. Why would that be?
I don't know. I was because it made me think like, wow, what if, for example, you and your bride made my guest list when I got married? Like, sure, you would have done a good job.
Yeah, no, that's
I
dumb.
don't know if you would have known to invite like my uncle.
A, that's dumb. I don't really even understand that. And B, like
No.
nobody wants to do that for you. I mean, that's like
Okay.
a pain in the butt.
Good.
So no,
All right.
nobody's into that.
It is entirely fine to deny anyone plus ones for any reason.
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, I think this is where
If this one gets fraught.
it gets fraught. I mean, like I have a personal policy of like definitely not getting offended if I'm not invited to a wedding. In fact, generally, unless it's someone I'm really close to, it is fine. Really, you don't have to invite me.
Yeah,
No problem. It is not an issue.
it's
Do
a
not worry about
okay.
it for 1 second. But I have,
Do you remember that one wedding that you were invited to and you assumed that I was, and I wasn't,
oh,
and I was honestly fine with it, but our conversation went with me saying, "No, really, it's fine." So many times until I was finally like, "I'm gonna stop saying it's fine because it's starting to sound like it's not fine, but really, it's fine."
yeah, yeah, it's definitely fine. Like weddings are a pain in the butt, and I take no offense to that. But I mean, as far as like, so I don't know. So I think like I guess people should invite who they want, and people should realize that weddings are really complicated and expensive, and not get too offended if they're not invited because there could be all sorts of reasons. But then that can get weird
Mm,
too because,
it can get really
like,
weird.
I am thinking of situations where, and I know this has happened to people that I know, where like,
This has also happened to people that I know. They weren't given a plus one, and yet they were fully married to their spouse
Correct.
who
And
happened to be a same-sex spouse.
correct. Or
Yeah.
even like a boyfriend, partner, girlfriend thing where like other people's,
Yeah.
a lot of times too, gay marriage has not been around that long. It will not be around that much longer, most likely. So, you know, when, a lot of times it's if people have been together for 10, 20 years, and some people still like, some queer people still don't care about getting married, but they've been
Yeah.
together for 20 years or whatever. Um, so I don't know about
So
for any reason.
that one gave me pause too because of those scenarios.
Yep.
Skip the bridal party. I agree completely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ties in with number 6. If you have a bridal power party, you pay for costs incurred, but skip the bridal party. Yeah. I'm never going to wear that dress again.
So a bridal party is not a bachelorette party. Oh,
The
the bridal
bridal
party is like
party
the
is the
group at the
group of
wedding.
folks. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's me and like 3 other women friends, and we all buy an expensive dress that we're never going to wear again. That everybody goes, "You'll wear that again."
See, I would say go ahead and do that if you want, but like everybody gets to wear what they want. Or you buy the dresses.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yep.
Never say black tie optional. Choose. I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think like make it clear what you expect from people because you're gonna wind up people are gonna wind up showing up. Um,
And they're
you
going to
know,
be confused. Like, can I wear my tux? Can I not wear my tux? I don't.
yeah, I like to be really clear about what, you know, I like to be really clear about what I'm supposed to wear at a thing. And when people are too wishy-washy about it, then you wind up being the only one who's not in a tuxedo or whatever, and suddenly you feel like a jerk, even though so yeah, I would agree with
Yep.
that.
It's fine to skip a wedding for any reason, but RSVP early. Skip them. Don't go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Don't
legit.
go.
100%.
Next one is no kids. If kids are needed for the ceremony, a car should be waiting. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily have a problem with kids if people want kids there. I don't know.
Hmm. We can agree to disagree on that. I will not die on that hill, but I do have an opinion. Just because
I guess like why would kids not be allowed if people want kids there?
because it's usually a wedding is like a nighttime, like a wedding reception
Hmm.
is a nighttime thing with open bar. It's adults, it's drinking. You don't need the kids there. They can
Yeah, I
go
guess,
somewhere
but if it's
else.
not
And I
and
guess if it's your summertime wedding in a barn,
yeah.
just because they invited you to their bachelor party or wedding doesn't mean you have to invite them to yours. Fair.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Although that's going to be tricky. So just, I you can say that, but also I feel like there's a good chance people are going to be offended. Someone's going to be offended. So,
The next one is do not give wedding favors. Uh, I know. And the one that ties in is if you do give wedding favors, give them on arrival Friday and make them edible. What? I'm assuming that's for like a destination wedding.
um yeah, well, I mean, I guess I don't know what the Friday part is, but yeah, I guess
I guess you reach an age where you don't need a small bottle of wine or like a votive candle in a little
yeah.
holder.
I don't think there's anything wrong with I mean, if people want to do it, I don't I guess I don't care one way or the other. If like you don't give wedding favors, that's fine. If you want to, sure.
I'm kind of like I might not take the votive candle,
Right.
but if you travel from out of town, you don't need to get the couple of gifts. And that's followed with actually all gifts are banned.
Yeah, the gift thing gets weird. The gift thing gets really weird, especially, especially yeah.
Yeah,
I
I read a whole article on that one, and in Slate they were saying like the idea that people haven't, already established a place where they live together and they have to like nest.
Yeah.
It's outmoded. They don't need a blender anymore.
Yeah.
Like they've got sheets and towels most likely.
Yeah. I think that's probably fine. I think that's fine to do away with gifts. All right.
Yep, and the article elaborated more to like, okay, if you know him really, really well and it's something sentimental and special between you, yes, or cash. Cash is always great. Who doesn't
Yeah.
want cash?
Yeah, I always do cash anymore. Like I just feel like it's fine.
I don't remember what I gave you and Mike. Hopefully
I do,
cash.
and it was lovely, but I will not discuss it right at this moment
Okay.
because it was
Was
very
it
personal and
dirty?
meaningful to me. No, because I don't remember either, but I'm sure
Okay.
it was wonderful.
It's fine if someone else wears white.
Sure. Yeah, I don't care.
No one has to walk you down the aisle. I agree. Give
Um,
us a good kiss. Oh, the aisle you had, you were backing up to that. I'm speeding through these because we're getting toward the end.
we are actually out of time,
Are we?
but uh, yes,
My stopwatch is only at 56.
right. But if we go any longer, then by the time I put everything else in, I'll wind up having to cut out things,
Oh
and
man,
that
just
takes
make
a
your
long time.
vegetarian option vegan. Thanks for tuning in, Space Cadets, and keep your dial tuned to WAYO LP Rochester.
Woo woo.